Hey, Dr. Tartt.
Hey, what's happening?
What is up?
Hey, good times. Long day, but
Yes.
great way to end it.
Awesome. 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 Good to be in your presence.
Same here. Long time coming. We're gonna take care of the people today. I've gotten so many texts, so many questions. People want answered, so I'm glad to serve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As am I, right? This has been a very requested topic, especially for the married folks. So I'm ready to dive in. And we have so many people in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining. Go ahead and shout out where you're joining from. We'd love to hear that. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'll pass it over to you. All right, so my name is Dr. Jacqueline Sherman. You can call me Dr. Jack. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, and so happy to be with you all today. I'm also an intimacy and relationship coach, and so really, really interested and excited to be talking about this topic today. I'm also a wife. So I just want to say that because we're talking about sex and lovemaking and marriage. And so that's an important piece to who I am. But I'm happy to be in this space with my colleague, friend, also mentor, and fellow psychologist, Dr. Alduan Tartt. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks.
All right, thanks, Dr. Jack. I'm Dr. Tartt coming. I know she's coming from Florida. I'm coming from Atlanta, GA. Been a psychologist for 21 years. I focus primarily on relationships all the way up from childhood, all the way on up to, seasoned couples. And talking about lovemaking is one of the things that most couples are afraid to do. They don't like talking about it. They don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And many of you also know I'm a Christian psychologist. So in the church, we especially stay away from topics like this. So I'm excited that I get a chance to partner with Dr. Jack because this is a much needed conversation. This is something that is requested in my office on a weekly basis. Like they pull me to the side, I need to talk to someone about what's going on at home. All right. So this is a ministry for me. I want you all to settle back. I want you to ask your questions. I'm so excited to partner with Dr. Jack and I'm realizing that people don't even know that she exists. I don't mean Dr. Jack. I mean, you don't even know that they're experts on intimacy in the field of psychology. This is so new to you. Y'all don't know that experts like this exist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to your point, I will say this, there are also a lot of mental health specialists, therapists, psychologists, et cetera, that have absolutely no training in intimacy. And so it's not uncommon for you to go to a couple's therapist. The therapist may ask, hey, are you guys having sex? And you're like, thumbs up. And that's the end of the dialogue.
Right.
If that even happens. So it's really important.
For sure. You all may not know. Let's see. I see y'all coming in from Tallahassee. I represent Atlanta. We talking smack about the Hawks. I know we're not here to talk about sports, Dr. Jack, but we so happy to have something winning. We're going to still talk. But do y'all know the number one reason? I want y'all to drop it in the chat. What's the number one reason why couples call it quits within 1 year? I don't mean in general. What's the number one reason?
Oh, that's a good question.
Number one reason why couples call it quits, whether they're Christian, it doesn't matter. Across the board, the number one reason why people call it quits within the first year of marriage. Let's see, are you smarter than a psychologist? Let's see if you know.
We see communication, finances. What else we got?
Financial.
Somebody won't put out.
Lack of communication, money, lack of sex.
Sex. Hey, Alina.
So y'all coming in hot and heavy. So y'all guessing.
They are.
Y'all guessing. All right. Should I give them the answer?
Give them the answer, Doc.
And then we're going to dive in. It's sexual incompatibility. So sexual dissatisfaction. So Dr. Jack can break that. It means a lot of things. So when you think about it, yeah, you were right. Y'all were right. When you think about it, couples can hang in there. They can hang in there for money issues, communication issues, even infidelity. We can hang in there and see what we can fix this thing. But when it comes down to where you've made your mind up that we are sexually incompatible and it doesn't seem to work, how many of you would hang in there for 30, 40, 50 years? So
I can't do
why
it.
we're teaching on this, because no one talks about this. No one talks about it, but it's the number one. It's the number one reason why couples call it quits after a year, because they feel like it's something that they'll never overcome, and that they don't even want to do marriage that way. They don't feel like they'll be faithful. No one wants to be dissatisfied. No one wants to argue. So we're talking about it today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's such a difficult thing to talk about, which is why this space is so important, right? Because oftentimes we're told how to engage in sex, but we don't talk about it. So it's an action, but the communication aspect does not happen. And so that's an important piece as well. We don't have the language.
And we need to have it. All right. So I'm just going to be totally, transparent. I got a lot of texts, Dr. Jack, from singles. When they saw this topic, they were hitting me up. They were like, when I'm married, we ain't going to never have a problem with initiation. I don't understand why married people are not having sex all the time. Now, this is coming from a single perspective. Why are they not on top of each other in the pandemic? They get to see each other. Here I am on fire in the middle of COVID with no one to be warm to. I don't understand how married couples have an issue with initiating lovemaking. Can you break it down as to how this even becomes an issue for couples who are cohabitating and married? How is initiation of lovemaking even a problem?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. And from a singles perspective, I get it, right? But what ends up happening typically in most marriages is that there's one primary initiator, right? And so things usually start off where one person is initiating most of the time. And then what happens over time is that person gets tired. They get tired of initiating. Again, we talked about how couples don't necessarily have the language to talk about these type of issues. And so they stay silent. And then so what happens when you get tired and you stay silent is resentment starts to build, right? And so this is what leads to continued dry spells within marriage. Dry spells are normal, but I'm saying continued dry spells within marriage. And a lot of resentment can build as a result of it. And so we're going to be talking about today ways that you can work through that, some things that may come up, some blocks in terms of initiation, et cetera, because it's really, really important.
Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh while you were saying. I'm looking at the comments, Dr. Jack.
What's the comment?
Tired. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. You trying? I get it. I'll just put it out there. Because y'all might be scared. Because I'm married as well. If I have to choose between rest and intimacy, sometimes I ain't gonna lie, I choose rest.
Absolutely.
I choose rest.
Absolutely.
I choose rest. So. Some of the comments I see coming in and some of the things that I see. And you can talk about this, Dr. Jack, because I do have a personal agenda here. I definitely want you to talk about what role women have in initiation, because my wife and I go back and forth about this. And I'll tell y'all a funny story later, but gender norms, like especially modern day, what are gender norms when it comes to initiation and when couples get to a dry spell,
absolutely,
how to. So I've talked to couples, and when you're married, it's very easy to have a dry spell to where you go a week, 2 weeks, a month, even 2 or 3 months. If you start talking about real issues, you start talking about menopause, talking about pregnancy, you start talking about emotionally disconnected, traveling, spouses in the military. It's very easy to have a dry spell and not know how to get back in the groove sexually. Dr. Jack, talk to us about couples when it comes to how to get back into the groove of lovemaking without it feeling awkward.
Absolutely. So there's two questions that you brought up. So you brought up how to get back in the groove, and then you also brought up the gender norms. So I'm going to touch on the gender norms first, because I want to check in with you about that.
All right.
So I feel that society has told women that they are to be desired, right? So when it comes to desiring their partner, and we're talking about heterosexual relationships here just for a moment. When it comes to desiring a male partner, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of modeling that takes place to make that okay. And so I will even share from my own personal marriage. I'm gonna self-disclose with y'all for a minute. I'm gonna get real. It was difficult for me to learn how to initiate, because, kind of going back to what I mentioned before, it was something that I was used to my partner doing, right? And so it really took some difficult conversations to say, hey, I'm tired of initiating. I need you to step up to the plate. And it wasn't even something that I had thought would be an issue, right? And so it's really, really helpful to have those dialogues, because what can happen is when one person pulls back, then there can be questions around desirability, right? So these very candid conversations are extremely, extremely important. And to your point, it is on both parties, right? Both parties want to have a healthy sex life, and both parties are responsible for that happening, right? And so there may be one partner who's more skilled at initiation, who has initiated more in the relationship, right? But it's important that if that person is starting to feel like, hey, I want you to kind of step up to the plate, that they're having these conversations, that they're having these dialogues, and that they're easing their partner into it, because that's another piece. If someone hasn't really had a history of initiating, it's been mostly on one partner, they may not necessarily know how, right? And so that it also takes compassion and patience as well to be able to get to that place where things feel more even, again, if that's what your relationship is striving for.
And you know what? I kind of expect you to know what I want without telling you. I expect you to kind of know my sex language. Girl, when I walk in, I need you to be like the video, or I need you to be the sexy librarian. Whatever. We expect our partners to know these things without being able to talk about. How do we have that conversation? How do we have a conversation? Because it can go both ways, right? It could be a man doing all the initiation. It could be the wife doing the initiation. How do you have that conversation? What's the language without offending your partner about, hey, I would like for you to initiate more?
Absolutely. That's a great question. One of the things that you can do is start with, guess what? I saw this live today, and it was so interesting. No, seriously, really, when we're talking about difficult topics, it is so helpful to say, hey, I saw this and I was really interested in it. So that would be the first step. Hey, you can use us. We saw this live today, and it really had me thinking about some things. And then really the first and most important question is figuring out, what is your partner's initiation preference, right? So I'm gonna let y'all sit with that for a minute, because oftentimes we do not know. We think that the way in which we should initiate, even if we're gonna start to try, is how we want to be initiated, right? So it's similar to love languages. We tend to show up and show love in ways that we want to receive love, right? So if I'm a person who loves touch, I'm going to be touching my partner. My partner may not necessarily like that. They may like acts of service. They maybe want you to go take their dry cleaning to get clean. And that's the love for them. So being able to have that dialogue and that communication around, what is your preference when it comes to initiation? I saw this live. It was really interesting. We've never really had this dialogue. Like, let's talk about what our preferences are, because I've been guessing and I'm not 100% sure, because they could look very different. So there's a couple of different preferences, right? Some people may like things really direct. Some people may like things that are not as direct, so subtle, surprises, etc. Is it physical touch or is it verbal, right? And so being able to have these dialogues are extremely important, because then you start to learn what your partner likes, what they don't like, and then you can initiate in ways that they enjoy. So that's really, really important. Timing is also important, right? And so what will happen in couples therapy for me, Doc, is I'll have a couple that will come in. And for example, I've had couples where, the mom is extremely fatigued and tired. We talked about being tired earlier, right? And so the partner will try to initiate at like 11:30 at night, after all of the kids are asleep. She's tired, got to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready, and the timing is off. The timing is off. The approach may be off. Okay, I already know he about to get into bed and spoon me. I am not for it tonight, right? And she may not even like spooning. Like, get up off me. And so again, being able to have conversations about timing, she may prefer her sex drive may be higher in the morning, right? And so again, having those conversations about how, when, super, super important. Because a lot of times when people are saying, no, I don't want sex right now, it's not necessarily because they don't desire their partner, but it could be a timing factor and a how they are initiating factor.
Oh, let's stay right there. Are you allowed? I'm talking about in the culture of marriage. Are you allowed to say no?
Heck yeah! Wait, Dog, what you mean? What you mean?
You heard me. I've been working. I've been working hard. I put bread and food on the table. Maybe you did too. You know.
Let me see if my husband is in this live right now.
I mean, can is the culture? Because this is a great question. Is it okay? Is it healthy or unhealthy? Because we can see both sides, to refuse lovemaking when your partner initiates.
Wait, I'm seeing a lot of the ladies in the chat saying yes, yes, ma'am, yes, yes, yes. So again, I think compassion and grace is necessary, right? And so everyone is not going to feel up to it all the time. And enthusiasm is the biggest turn on in sex. So if you're not going to do it and you're not going to be into it, right?
Right.
I think it's really helpful to be able to communicate that to your partner. But again, communication is key. So being able to say, you know, hey, I've had a really, really long day, but I would really, really look forward to making love with you tomorrow night or tomorrow morning is very different than saying, get off me, right? So it's really about approach. It's really about being sensitive to your partner, taking their desire in consideration. All of those things are important, but ultimately, it's your body. And so you also have to respect where your body is, right? And your body may not always be open to intimacy. And so being very honest about that is really important.
Yeah, I see the comments, you know, if you read the body language, you won't have to hear no. Can I be transparent when I do workshops with men? All right. You know that men have a number. Since you've been transparent, Jack, for all the husbands, I'm gonna say it so that you don't have to. Okay.
Yes. That
all the husbands have this secret number in their head. All right.
Okay. Teach me some.
All right. There's only so many times you can tell me no before my mind goes crazy. Meaning my mind opens up to things I should not be thinking about. Right?
That's real.
So when I am in a room and we're safe space, I say, how many of y'all have a number? How many refusals can you take in a row before it becomes a problem? All right. And around the room, you hear men say 3, 5, 2 weeks, a week, 4 days, a month. Right? So I see both sides. Like, you don't want to refuse. And there are women that have a number too. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, right? I saw that in the comments.
Especially when we start talking about the libido. Women, when they start hitting their libido stride, when they get to that optimum age, libido's high, you talking about no on a regular basis? You don't feel like it? You tired? Okay,
right.
The UPS man looking real good right now. I'm trying not to look at him. But you said no 5 times, and I'm looking at the brother drop the boxes off. Right? So we have to be able to talk about what that number is so that you all can have this conversation about not offending your partner, but also doing the things to make sure that both of you are in the mood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important. And that's exactly how the conversation around initiation how it can really help, right? Because again, if the partner, I'm going to use the male partner as an example, is initiating in a way that doesn't turn their partner on, that can also be a game changer, right? Because we have differences in desire, right? So we have responsive desire. We also have spontaneous desire. So there's a difference.
Break those down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's different desire types, and it's helpful to know your desire because it's information that you can then share with your partner. But some people have spontaneous desire. This means that the person is typing on the computer, answering emails, and they just start to feel aroused. They start to feel turned on. It really seems that it comes out of the blue for them, right? Other people may have a responsive desire. So this means that they may have to see something, they may have to feel touched, they may read something that then a arousal response comes up for them as a result of that. And so some people have either responsive or spontaneous. Some people have like a mixture of both, so they can fluctuate. But it's really, really important to know what your desire preference is and your partners. So that way you can have conversations around and understand how that desire may look different based on your desires, your type of desire.
Yeah, and I like the way you break that down because, you know, we didn't introduce the option of when you say no, is there anything I can do to change your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You might say no, but my wife calls it chore play. Well, if you take the kids off my hands and give me a couple of hours to prepare for you, to luxuriate, to wash the day off, and to think about you and not be in mom mode, maid mode, chef mode, super mom mode. If I can just be a super sex kitten, if I can just be that for a couple of hours, you're going to be good. So
absolutely,
brothers out there, ask, chore play, what can I do? What needs to happen so that 11:30, 10:30, when I come home, when I come into the room, that you're waiting on me.
Absolutely. You know, you make such a great point, and I've heard this from so many of my female clients that, you know, I would be more into having sex more regularly if the house was clean, if the dishes was washed, if I had some help, right? And so for some couples, it really is, I'm tired, but I also feel like if I had more help, I would definitely be more into it. And so that's a really, really good point and something to definitely communicate around.
That's a great point because imagine how offensive it can seem to a husband that wants to make love to his wife, and he's like, "Hey, babe, what you doing?" And she's cleaning the kitchen. It seems like you rather leave pots in the pan than come upstairs and let me cook up something. Let us simmer up something.
I'm laughing at my friend's comments. I'm so sorry.
Right? You push up in the kitchen, you like, get off me, I'm doing the dishes. You like, it doesn't happen like this in the movies. In the movie, when we first got married, you put that on low. You turn that off. We were all over each other, and now you rather wash some pots and pans than be with me. To a man's ego, that man, at his worst, begins to think, I know, and same thing, I know who would stop washing dishes for me. I know who is looking at me when I go to work. I know who is in my DMs. I know when I'm at the gym, I know who's always trying to walk by and sashay and then I come home to try and bring that energy home like a good man, and then I get off me so I can wash the dishes, put the clothes in the dryer so that I can respond to an email if the laptop is open. That rejection is huge. And I know it goes both ways. And I'm intentionally taking the position of a husband. I know it goes both ways, but you have to have conversations about needs. And when you're offended, husbands, say you're offended. Don't just suck it up, because whatever you're thinking, I'm just going to tell you, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. So, Dr. Jet, what advice do you have for refusals? How should couples handle refusals? How can they decrease the refusals, but also maybe a different language so that it doesn't hurt as much?
Yeah. So again, I think that it really is leading with compassion.
Said bust them sons, and then
when I tell you, I can't even look at this chat because I can't concentrate. Y'all in this chat are cracking me up. I see all kind of splits and everything going on. So y'all having a good time. I love it. We're here to entertain y'all and teach you something. So keep it going. What was the question, Dr. Tartt? What? Can you repeat the question?
My bad. She said I have ADD. Clutter drives me insane. I can't wind down unless the house is clean. I get it. No, the question was, how do we make refusal lighter? How do we make that how do we decrease the amount of refusal that's going on in a marriage relationship? And then how do we reframe the conversation so that it doesn't feel like I don't want you?
Really, really good question. So one, I think it's really helpful, if you can, to have these conversations when you're not in the bedroom.
Mm.
Okay, so that's going to be number one, and that's not always possible. I get it, but if you can have the conversation where emotion isn't necessarily high, where the person isn't feeling as vulnerable, it can make for a much better conversation. So trying to have with, and I would say this with any conversation that's going to be emotionally charged and possibly difficult, you want to have it in a place that is neutral. Bedroom, no. Bedroom should be for sleep and sex. That's it. And so being
Whoa,
able to
not children?
listen, I don't want to upset the folks,
No, no,
but
tell the truth.
no, no.
What's the little kids, Dr. Jack? They come and get in the bed. They want to watch Amazon. They want to watch Netflix in the bed. We can be a great, big, happy family with the big TV in the master bedroom.
Dr. Tartt, I said what I said, Dr. Tartt. Why you on here? See, I know what you're doing. People gonna be DMing me. Mm-hmm. No, but seriously, when it comes to creating and cultivating the best intimacy that you can, truly, the bedroom is for sex and sleep. And again, we know that sometimes kids get in that mix, but you want to be really, really careful about how that is impacting your intimacy, because it can. So yeah, that's my final answer.
No, that's real. I'll be transparent. So I don't know if my wife is on here. She may or may not be.
Hi,
I
wife.
don't know.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm gonna act like she's not on here because I haven't seen anything. So I'm gonna tell on her, right? I'm gonna tell on her. So in relationships, there's someone that's usually the more responsible one, right? Mm-hmm. I'm the responsible one, meaning I think about where the kids might be. I think about the kids walking in. I hear every little creak, Mm-hmm. My wife doesn't think about these things, right? And so I think that it's important in the bedroom that the kids know, don't come in the bedroom past a certain time, all right? Mm-hmm. And you have to set up little booby traps, because we have a young one. So I have toys by her. So you come out here, the toys well before, because sometimes they wake up with nightmares. But I tell her, listen, I am my best self when the kids are away, mm-hmm. because I don't have to think. I know someone feels me out here, Dr. Jack. You keeping it real, I'm keeping it real. Yes. Because I know if it's left up to sister girl, we're going to have social services called on her because she ain't paying attention to nothing. All right? I can't get all into the flow because I'm the one that's responsible, not trying to damage our daughters, right? So I tell them, look, you don't get the maximum freak flag. You don't get that max unless they're out the house, because I'm always thinking about what could go wrong, So that's one of the conversations we had to have, is that there's times in which they have to be out the house. We have to be in a hotel. They have to be with the grandparents. They have to be doing a sleepover. We need time.
Alone time is so important.
Right. Mm-hmm. Plus, so it's not, and plus we didn't talk about it yet, but spontaneity. I don't want my only love-making time to be after the kids are asleep. What about in the middle of the day? Mm-hmm. What about some of these comments? What if you washing dishes at 1 o'clock and you look real sexy with the suds coming down? What about at 1 p.m.?
And to go back to what you're saying, this is a part of the ongoing dialogue about preference, initiation preference, right? Because some people are control freaks. Let's just put it out there. They want to put it on the calendar. They want to have it planned. And so for that person, it may look very different. And so both being able to compromise, okay, how can we have spontaneity, right? How can we have it in the middle of the day? But then also, how can we plan it next week in a way where I have kind of the entire day to prepare? And so being able to compromise in that regard is extremely important. Y'all, with these comments, I don't even know what
I see them in the laundry room. In the laundry room, you know what I'm saying? That's why the suds are on the neck. That's funny. But you know what? Here's the real deal. Here's the real deal. What we know from the research is actually what we need is spontaneity. It can't always be the same way. Otherwise, guess what? Lovemaking becomes boring.
1,000%.
So talk to us some more. Talk to couples about ways. Well, let's keep it with initiation. Ways to keep it spicy with the initiation. What are some recommendations you give to couples about how they can mix up even how they initiate lovemaking?
Absolutely. Really, really good question. So again, figure out what your partner likes, right? Just like if you're going to a restaurant, you want to order them a meal that they're going to enjoy. Same thing. You want to figure out what they like. And then you want to do that as much as you can, but be creative with it. So, for example, if they like stuff more subtly, you can use flirtation, right? If they like it to be planned, you can start in the morning with sending text messages to them to be able to plan something for later on that day. If they like verbal, you can tell them verbally what it is that you want them to do, or you can use demanding commands that can be really helpful as well. So there's lots
Hold on,
of
what you
different
mean by demanding?
Take your clothes off right now.
Oh boy,
That's demanding. Yeah, being very, very direct, right? And people who enjoy verbal initiation may really, really enjoy that. To someone who doesn't appreciate that, they may like touch. And so being able to learn from your partner how they like to be touched, where they like to be touched is extremely, extremely important.
I'm signing up for the demanding. I don't know if I'm giving women permission to do that. I'm giving wives permission to do that. We've had
Wives, demanding is where it's at.
Yeah. And my wife knows that I'm very, sharing. My wife initiated one time. All right, and I went to sleep. Next morning, she said, "What happened?" I was like, "What you mean? What happened?" She says, "You didn't want to be with me last night." I said, "What you talking about?" She says, "I initiated." I said, "What did you do?" And she basically like rubbed me on the shoulder. I said, "Girl, that's not initiation. That's rubbing me on the shoulder."
Yes.
I thought you were telling me to get up and do something. I thought you would. I didn't. I like the demanding. I like to take your clothes off right. As long as it doesn't sound like Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? Take your clothes off right now. That's a good style. But one of the things we had to talk about is, like you said earlier, is it okay for a wife to do that without seeming out of order? Or is that improper, especially for a Christian woman? Is that improper to be that way? How do you have that conversation?
That's a really, really good point. So I actually, in preparing for today, looked at some research.
Okay.
And what it actually says is, in terms of like just gender differences regarding romance, what society has really projected onto women is this idea that we are just supposed to be submissive and things are supposed to be romantic. But when they take a look at the research, what it actually suggests is a lot of women enjoy demanding, right? A lot of women enjoy the spontaneity of being more assertive, etc., but necessarily haven't been given that permission. And so one thing that I would suggest for all of the people on here who are in relationships and married and want to try something new, add being demanding as one of those ways of initiating. See how your partner likes it. And there's all different types of things that you can say, whatever is natural to you. You can see what came up naturally for me, but whatever comes up naturally for you, being able to use your words to tell your partner what you want them to do. It can be extremely powerful, and research shows that women like it a whole lot more than it may seem that we do.
I love it. I love it. So I think it's important for us to be able to have these conversations on a regular basis. And the research shows that, believe it or not, our sexual fantasies change every 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we start talking about eroticism. And I know that's weird. You've never heard erotica and Christianity go together, but they do. Erotica and marriage goes together because we have these erotic sexual fantasies that need to be fulfilled, because you're thinking it, whether you're saying it or not, you're still thinking it. Mm-hmm. And when you're able to communicate how to keep it spicy, things that you're thinking about on a regular basis, then you're able to keep it routine. Now, I was talking about my wife's shoulder rub, but after that, sister girl took it to like another level. She was like, "Oh,
okay."
If I have, because what she was saying is, I never wanted to offend you. And then some of her exes did not respond to that. They were like, I don't ever want a woman to initiate to me.
Yes, that's where I was when I first got married. I was like, I don't initiate. I don't know what that. Yeah. And he was like, listen, ain't no pillow princesses over here.
If you want Inglewood, you can get Inglewood. I was trying to not be offensive. So now I get the Inglewood. Funny story real quickly. All right. So I came in, Dr. Jack, one day, wife is watching TV. She's watching Power, right? I come, I said, "Hey, babe." She didn't say anything. I said, "Hey, babe." She didn't say anything. I said, "Babe, I'm home. What's up?" And she gave me the finger, like, "Hold on, I'm watching this scene. Like, be quiet. I'm watching this scene." All right, I look at the scene. It's a love-making scene with Ghost, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now the weird thing is, I know Ghost. We went to school together. All right. So it's kind of
Uh-oh.
weird. All right. Kind of weird, right? We played football together. I'm like, oh man, this is kind of weird. I know he's acting, but I'm not gonna trip because I'm not that guy. I'm not insecure. I go upstairs. 30 minutes later, sister girl comes upstairs, and she's like, "Hey, babe, how was your day?" I was like, "Now you want to know how my day was?" I said, "I tell you what. Why don't you ask Ghost how his day was, since you're so interested in the scene, right?" And she said, "Babe, I don't like Ghost like that." I know she was lying, but she said the right thing. I don't like Ghost.
She might have been a little white lie,
Right. I said, I don't like Ghost like that.
I'm gonna just leave it right there.
She said, "But if you want me to keep it 100 with you, I did like the scene."
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Oh, really? Run that scene back. Run that back. If you want me to go put on a white shirt and throw some cocaine on you, girl, if that's what you want, that's what
not
we
the
can
cocaine.
do. That's what we can do." But we had a conversation based on that about things that you like. Different. That was the first time I saw Inglewood. Like, this is what I actually like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage all couples to be naked and unashamed about what it is that you're thinking and feeling and want from your partner, and know that it can change at any point in time. What I wanted last month may not be what I want this month.
Absolutely. You make such a good point, and thinking about fantasy, I'm thinking about a couple that I was working with recently, and the woman, it took her a while to get to this point, but she was having fantasy around infidelity. So they were in a monogamous relationship, but she just kept having this fantasy of, man, it would be really, really interesting to invite someone else into the relationship. But their values were that they were in a monogamous relationship, and they both were on accord with that, right? I'm not even looking in the comments because y'all gonna get me distracted. Let me finish my story. So what they ended up doing was role playing, right? Meeting up at a restaurant. We don't know one another, right? I'm trying to take you from your wife, right? I'm going to be the mistress tonight. And so again, that's staying within the bounds of the marriage and their commitment to monogamy, but spicing it up in a way where they're using fantasy to create a very erotic experience for themselves. And so again, thinking outside of the box, like you mentioned, spontaneity, novelty, really, really important to keep things going, especially if you're in a monogamous relationship. You plan to be together for the rest of your life. You're having sex with this person for the rest of your life, right? And so you have to switch it up, and you have to explore fantasies in a way that can be really helpful.
They're loving that. They're loving that comment because it keeps it real. Because we think that having that fantasy is nasty. We think that that's an inappropriate. We wonder about if our partner would think, well, if you're thinking about this, does that mean you're trying to step out? What God intended is for us to keep all of that eroticism and all that spontaneity and all that novelty and all of that desire inside of the marriage.
You better preach, Doc.
They won't. I'm not gonna say they won't say it, but they are keeping it real. They'll keep it real. They do have those fantasies, and you need those fantasies so that it can always feel new. Because what we know is one of the things that increases libido. I saw this question in chat earlier. Is desire, right, Doc? If anything you can do to increase your own and your partner's sense of desire, do that. That way your sex is not your love making, even the way you initiate. I'm assuming you can mix up the styles, right? If you don't want to be demanding all the time. Like if my wife is telling me to take my clothes off every day, I'm like, okay, that's kind of old. You say that every day, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. Some days this needs to be subtle. Some days I need her to say nothing. Some days I'm sure she wants me to walk in like she says, maybe I'll walk in like a firefighter. The next day, walk in like I'm pushing weight, whatever it is. Next day I walk in to eat.
Right. Mix it up.
Mix it up. All right, let me ask you this. What can couples do? We talked a lot about we talked about lovemaking. What can couples do to actually be in the mood for lovemaking? Because it's not just we meet up in the bedroom. What if we're not connected? What recommendations do you have? And I think we're talking mostly to husbands. I don't know. What recommendations do you have with husbands? And y'all comment in chat. that increases the chances that his wife partner would say yes before the bedroom time? What are some things you hear from wives that they need from their husbands to not want to say no?
Really, really excellent question, right? So really, when it comes to sex, it's important to be relaxed, right? It's important to feel safe. If you're in a relationship where you feel stressed all the time, if you're in a relationship where you're overwhelmed, if you're in a relationship where you don't feel safe necessarily with your partner, right? Emotionally safe. That's one of the things that you want to work out first. It's really, really important to have that foundation. So figuring out ways to decrease stress is going to make someone feel more desirable. So that's going to be something that can be extremely helpful, being able to have the conversation and the dialogue around how can I help? I see Fierce 46, help with the chores, offer some food. Yes, food. And then also another thing that is important is foreplay can lead to sex, right?
Speak on it.
I'm going to say it again. Foreplay can lead to sex. So again, when you're talking about decreasing stress, massage, right? Let me light some candles. Let me create a sexy atmosphere. Let me give you compliments. Let me tell you how beautiful you are. Let me rub your feet because you had a really, really long day. I think that oftentimes someone would be a whole lot less likely to say no under those circumstances versus it's 11:30 at night, the house is a mess, you haven't helped me, and now I'm just spooning you and I'm like, hey, turn around. So really kind of engaging in that process and recognizing that a lot of times for most women, not all, that they are slow to warm up. Women are slow to warm up. And so being able to kind of spend the time to cultivate an experience that's going to be romantic, that is going to be hard to say no, because why would I say no? I mean, this is great. Versus a situation where it's just in the moment and there's a lot of stress and chaos around the environment.
Yeah, I see it all in the chat. Women are co-signing, like, give me time. Give me time. Take care of me. Show emotional interest in me before bedtime.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, because are you interested in me or are you interested in getting yourself pleased? There's a difference. And emotionally, it does not feel the same. So husbands, you can't do that. You can't just show interest in your wife when you want to be with her sexually. You can't just touch her. You have to hold her hand. You have to caress. You have to massage. And there are times in which you have to show, I'm just keeping it real, husbands. There are times in which you have to touch your wife and not initiate sex. I know there are men like, why would I do that?
Hello. Yes. That builds anticipation. Anticipation increases arousal. I mean, it's a full circle. Yes.
Yeah. So I so when y'all are keeping it real, so I think this would be a time you want to take questions.
Sure. Yes.
All right, let's take some
questions.
questions. Y'all have Dr. Jack on. Y'all can see why she is a steal. Y'all want to be in contact with her. Find out how to do this. These are things, and she did not mention this early on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things she also specializes in is helping women to have sexual confidence, yes. All right? Because you have to feel, and there's a lot of different things that affects a woman's confidence. Sometimes it's things that we do. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it's body image. It should be so many different things, but that's oftentimes a walk that only women can take. You need to be in a space with a woman that understands exactly what you're going through and being able to have a safe space to work through that and be able to feel comfortable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one of the things she specializes in. As you can see, that's not an area that I can help you with, ladies. I mean, I get it as a couple, but there's certain things I just can't talk to you about, So that's where you would go to someone like Dr. Jack to be able to explore that on your own. All right, any questions, drop them in the chat.
Yes. Okay, let's see.
All right, so I see one says, I'm not sure who it's for, but it says, how can we help women understand us more? This is from a man, because we always hear that we're supposed to understand you guys. How can we help women understand us more? Because we're always here that we're supposed to understand you guys. So what's something a husband can ask to open his wife up about her needs? Give him a good question. Give him a language. While you think of someone saying, pay attention. Pay attention to what? Come on, like, what are we looking at? Help a brother out. What are we looking at?
So I think a lot of women, and I want y'all to let me know in the chat if you agree with this, I think a lot of women really want to feel understood. And I think that that starts with stopping, slowing down, and just being with her emotionally. And I think women often crave that. When women feel emotionally understood, they feel safer, they feel more desirable, etc. And so I think that being able to ask those questions can be really helpful. Questions such as, you know, how can I support you today? It seems like that you had a difficult day. Things like that, I feel like really, really build intimacy on an emotional level and create more understanding. So I'm seeing in the chat a lot of paying attention, paying attention, paying attention. And paying attention comes with asking very intentional questions, right? So you're paying attention. You're thinking that you know what's going on, but you're also asking follow-up questions to make sure that she's understood and to make sure that she's validated. It's so funny, me and my husband, we literally, like, he'll be like, I just validated you, babe, because we have literally had this dialogue our entire marriage about how important it is for many women to feel validated, to feel heard, to feel understood. And so making sure that you really get what they're saying, what they're experiencing, what they're going through can be a game changer.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll go to the next question that I see is, women, we need you to speak up. You need to show up to the relationship. You need, since we're talking about intimacy, you need to show up. You don't have to be quiet about what you're not happy about. It's okay for you to talk about what you need. Baby, when you touch me, I like it when you go slower.
Yes.
Babe, when you send me, my wife tells me, when you send me messages early in the day, that actually gets me in the mood for when I come home. It doesn't just start when knowing that you're thinking about me at the top of the day makes me want to be with you. For me, it's a slow build. So if you want to be with me at night, you need to show me in the morning, not at night. I don't work that way. All right. So
leave a little note.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good one. She's giving game. Leave a little note
before you leave for work. Put a note on the pillow. Can't wait to see you later today. But if you do that, I've done this before. You gotta step up. When you get home, you can't be like, I'm tired.
Yeah, never mind. That was it. Now.
Never mind. I had a long day. That's not fair.
That was before. No, yeah, right.
You gotta take one for the team.
I see one. You know, is pleasing yourself cheating after getting no for an answer several times?
That is an excellent question, and it is not. It is not. So I will say, both for men and women, solo masturbation is so important. One, you learn your body, you learn what you like. And again, with limits. Now, we know that some people can be extreme with it, but we're talking about with limits, it's important. Additionally, it can help build desire. So for example, especially for women, there's some women that will have dry spells, and then they're like, I don't even want to think about sex. Like, it's the last thing from my mind. The first thing that I will encourage them to do is, I think that you should masturbate. And they will say, well, you know, why? I'm not into it. Because if it's turned off, then it's not necessarily going to just turn on like that, right? And so you're you're warming up, you're increasing the blood flow in your genitalia, which will ultimately throughout the day lead to more spontaneity when you're feeling desirable, when you're feeling arousal. And so it can be really, really important to engage in that solo practice. So when you do engage in sex with a partner, that arousal has already started to increase naturally.
Yeah, quick caveat on that. Make sure you all can communicate, because I can see the other side of that. Is what if you self-please and then your partner's like, hey, what's up? And you be like, nah, I'm good already. I took care of myself. That could...
Good point.
Yeah, you need to have that type of... I don't know if you say, all right, you say no. Some things should not be said. They should just be understood. If you say no, have we had previous conversations that I don't have to be frustrated? I don't have to be sexually frustrated. If you're not in the mood, I will give you grace and take care of myself. But what about when you want to take care of yourself and you don't communicate? and then that is why you're telling your partner no. That can lead to conflict. So I'm gonna read one more question, and then I think,
Really good point.
yeah.
Communication is key.
All right, let's see. Let me see if I see any more questions come in. Someone says, as a man who struggled with communicating, but I'm improving daily. Sometimes
Good.
talking dirty feels weird, for lack of a better
Hmm.
word, but my wife likes it. How can I get used to stepping out of my comfort zone for something my wife likes, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea? What's
Oh,
the
I love this.
mindset, Dr.
I
Jack?
love this question. The number one thing that you can do is start reading erotica, because it will start to have you thinking about things that you can say. Dirty talk is something that a lot of people enjoy, but they feel uncomfortable stepping into. And you can really, really start small, right? And so it doesn't necessarily have to look a certain way, but it creates a sense of vulnerability, to be able to be verbal. One of the things that you can try doing is just describing what you want your partner to do, right?
Mm,
So it's much easier just to say, oh, I want you to, take your shirt off. And then I want you to do X and then Y. Really kind of playing out the storyline is oftentimes a whole lot easier than kind of just dirty talking off the hip, right? And so, oh, Doc, why are you laughing?
I'm
Why are
laughing
you?
because it might be the wrong kind. You might be like, you a little dirty. You be like, who you talking to like that? Or you might love it. Or it might be whack. It might be the kind of stuff. That's whack talk. That's PG. I need something R. Or it might be X-rated. You be like, I'm a Christian. Well, you talk to me like I'm some woman from the streets. Or it might be,
Yeah.
I like that. So please, I love the way Dr. Jack set it up. Have the pre-conversation. Some stuff, of course,
Pre-conversation.
the pre-conversation, like, what do you like? I think that's a great way to start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When we
And you
make
can
love,
start. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to jump in, Doc. Go ahead.
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say you can also use texting. You can use texting to send things to your partner, to let them know that how desirable they are to you, etc. So start with baby steps, but like you said, get permission. You always want to get permission for anything that you do, even if it's your partner, because sometimes they may not be into it, right? No one likes an unsolicited DICK pic, right? So
Right.
you want to be able to get permission. Hey, are you into this? Is this something that I can do? And then get their buy-in. And once you get their buy-in, take baby steps.
I love it. I love it. So hopefully this has been beneficial to you all. Y'all see what a gift Dr. Jack is. I mean, these are conversations that we have to have in every community, especially in the Christian community, because we don't talk about it. In the married
Mm-hmm.
communities in general, you now have permission. You now have permission to talk. We want you to take this live, and we want you to share it with as many people as possible. When Dr. Jack posts, we're going to get off in a couple of minutes. When she posts
Mm-hmm.
this, you all share it. Y'all tell them where to find it. And we want you to actually use this to initiate conversation with your spouse, or keep this in your mind if it's your future spouse, that you're not always on. Communication is not just relegated to money and kids. You have to have communication around intimacy, because your intimacy needs change over time. Over time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc. You are a gift as well. I had really enjoyed this conversation. So much great insight from the male perspective. So really, really appreciate it. And yes, please share this video to one married couple. If you do have a partner and you're listening to this, take some of the tips that we have given and have the conversation. You can start with asking the simple question to your partner: how do you like to be initiated? Right?
Mm.
That can start the dialogue, because it can be a lot of different things. And you could be doing something that they don't even like, right? You could be doing the elbow rub,
Right.
or the shoulder
That's
rub,
his
and they're like,
go-to. You don't even like it.
right? And they're like, no, I actually want you to do this. I actually want you to say this. So that can start the dialogue. We encourage you and give you permission to have that dialogue, because it's so needed. And it's the first step to having amazing sex with your partner and lovemaking.
No doubt. Any last comments? If you all want to follow Dr. Jack, how do they get in contact with you?
Yes, you can follow me at DRJACPhD.
Yeah, drop that in the chat.
Absolutely. And also, if anyone is interested, hit me up in my DMs. I came across a quiz that you can take to learn your initiation style.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, so if you and your partner both want to take that quiz and share the results with one another, that's another really engaging way to start to have the conversation, to open up the dialogue. So that way you all can start having this extremely important conversation.
And I also want y'all, before we get out of here, I want y'all to check out betterhusbandbetterwife.com. My wife and I do monthly marital education and a master class for couples to talk about how to be a better husband and a better wife. Check that out at betterhusbandbetterwife.com.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for all of the wonderful comments. You all made this so fun. Really, really appreciate you.
All right, they want you to drop that link in the chat.
So I don't have for the quiz.
Yeah.
I do. DM me if you want the quiz. Just DM me and I'll send it to you. I don't have that link with me at this moment, but I'll get to you as soon as possible.
All right, there it is. So make sure y'all are following her. You have an email list?
Not yet. Coming soon.
All right, so DM her and then she'll be able to contact you and let you know about that quiz so that you can do that with your partner.
Yes, absolutely. This was so fun, Doc.
I appreciate you, Dr. Jack. We have to do it again.
Yes, Dr. Tartt. You have an amazing evening.
All right, take care. God bless.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.